Okay, this time we're going to talk about backing up your certs on your servers. Now, this is a really important part of your database maintenance, or your server maintenance as well, right? And we're proud to do this really well. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at what it takes to get this going. What you're looking at here is the backup cert table right there. And all we have to do is fill it. You know what? I've actually got data in there right now. So I'm going to dump it first, just so I can show you how easy it is. Truncate table there. There we go. Okay, so now there's absolutely nothing in this table. Now we're going to fill it. I will explain this in just a second. There we go. So there are two levels of cert backups that you can take in Minion Backup. You can take a server level cert, which takes clearly all of your server level certs, and then you can back up all of your database certs, the certs that are inside your database. Now, one of the big problems with backing up your certs is keeping the passwords. So far, there's really no good way to keep the password safe and to keep it in a reliable place. I think we've solved that problem here by giving you the encrypted password. We encrypt the password for you, and then we store it in the log. You're going to see that in a little while, so that even if you go back 6 months, you should still be able to get it as long as you've still got that log history, right? There are other solutions out there that will take a cert level backup for you, but they store the password in clear text, and I've always thought that was somewhat suspect as far as security goes. So this is a much more secure solution, because in order to get a hold of your data, somebody would have to get a hold of the cert as well. So when we do this insert, we have an encryption function here that we use to put in your password. So if you look here, now that I think we've run this, so now if I run this, you can see I get the encrypted version of the password that's stored in the table. So no clear text at all. And if I want to view the text, all I have to do is wrap it in the decrypt function and everything will be fine. See, I can see my passwords right there. And that's the same way that it's going to work in the log in just a couple minutes. Now, there's one other step that you have to take in order to back up your certs. So I've entered in these rows and I've told it I want a server cert, and here's the password I want, and yes, I want to back up the cert. That's what that one means. And now you have to enter in the paths. So over here in the paths table, you can see all I really need is a backup type of server cert or database cert. Now here's how this works, because it's a little bit different than it is in other areas. The database name doesn't matter because it's a server level cert. It doesn't really matter what the database name is. But you still have to put in a database name because the path table requires it. So in here, just put in Minion default. That'll be just fine. It doesn't matter what you put in there because the routine doesn't look for the database name. It just looks for the backup type. So we've got a backup type of server cert, and we've got 3 of these in here, and we've got database cert. Now, why do we have 3 of these? Well, certificates are a little bit important for recovering your server, and a lot of times for recovering an individual database, especially if you've got like TDE. So we allow you to back up to as many locations as you want. If you want to spread this thing across 30 locations and make extra sure that you've got your certs backed up, then you could do that, and it'll sit here and the routine will come in and it'll take all of these guys and it'll just back them up consecutively. And I've got this going to C server cert backups and server cert backups too. Let's see if we actually have those folders here. So we don't have those folders here. Good. You'll see that as with everything else where we write something to a path, Minion Backup will attempt to create those paths, and it'll warn you about it if it's not able to. So you can see here again we're on C, and there isn't a what did I call it? A server cert backups or server cert backups 2, right? So let's go ahead and run a backup. Now, for the server level backups, it only takes the server level backups when the master backup when the master database is backed up. So you're going to see that on the log as well. So let's go ahead and do this. It'll take about 20 seconds or so. I'm going to go ahead and pause this and I'll come back when it's done. There we go, it's finished. Now let's take a look at what we've got. Let's look in the log right here. Well, actually, no, let's look in the folder first. And you can see down here at the end that it did create my two folders, and that it gave me the database name followed by the cert name followed by the date. So all of the certs are just going to be dated in order in this folder. And of course you can see that it went to backups 2 as well, right? Now let's go ahead and look at this other one, because you see that, you remember there were 3. Here's a server cert right here, and we're going to Minion Con. So you see here we're actually going to a UNC path, cert backups, and then Minion Enterprise prod certs, and I'll discuss that in a minute. Okay, so let's go see if that is there. And you notice, let me pull this down here for you. And you notice here, I am on MinionCon now. I'm TS'd into MinionCon, and you see that there isn't anything created in here. So why didn't Minion Backup do it to all 3 of them? Because I just said that it would cycle through all of them, right? Well, the reason is because this one is set to isActive equals false. And if you haven't seen the other videos on striping and setting paths and mirroring and whatnot, then you really should, because it explains what this table is all about. And I'm going to tell you that this server label is a specialized label that you can use to get a little bit more control over your folder structure. And we have a separate video on server label as well. But let's go ahead and take a look at this. We're going to set this to true now. And we're going to run another backup. I think that's this window. Yeah, there we go. And I'm going to hit go. And I'm going to go ahead and pause, and I'll come back when it's done. Okay, that's finished. And now we can see that we've got another run of these guys here. See, because these guys are all 029, 029, and these guys are 242, 242. So we've got 2 runs of these 2 certs in here. But what about that third location? Well, now that we've got it turned on, you can see here that I've got my Minion Enterprise prod certs, and then I've got those same 2 certs over here for 1529 right there. So don't forget when you do these things that you can, that in the settings path table, that you can flip these bits to on and off. And we've got a video about that as well. We explain that in the paths video. So if you don't understand what that's for, then go watch those other videos and you'll be up to speed. Now the exact same thing works with the database certs. Now I'm going to say that the database name doesn't really matter here either, because all of the databases, or all the database certs, are going to be backed up to the same location, which is why they're prepended with the database name. So here again, the location doesn't really matter. So you can't send, this database's certs to this location and this database certs to this location. They're all going to go to the same location, but you can send them to as many locations as you like. Fair enough? Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of this log data. Let's see what we provide for you in the log. And I've singled out the cert data in here. Now you notice here that when I take these server level certs, that only when there's a full master, or only when there's a master backup, are these things being backed up. So it only backs up on the master. And you notice here I've got the encrypted version of the cert password as well. So let's go ahead and pull out the decrypt text from right here. And I'll just put that right there, and I'll call that cert password decrypted. Get rid of that. And let's see what we get now. So now you can see I've got both levels of it, right? And if you're extra paranoid, you can even change these guys. So I can update my password. So if it's a server cert, I want it to have this password, or if it's a database cert, I can have it have another password. So let's see, let's go ahead and change this to database cert. And let's change it to my DBs. There we go. I'll update that. And now when I come back up here and look, you can see I've got 2 separate passwords for extra security. Now, on rotating these passwords, this makes it really easy to rotate the password, because what you can do is you can set up a pre-task for your system level backups, and in that pre-task you can set it up to detect like once a month or once a quarter, and if it is, you know, the first day of the month, or if it is the first day of the new quarter, something like that, then you can have it automatically change this password, and that password will be reflected when the cert backup kicks off. So you can have it automatically rotate your passwords for you and increase your security even more. So this is a really good way to not only increase your security, but also really show your auditors something really cool that you're doing, that you're not only taking these encrypted, that you're not only backing up your encrypted certs or your encryption certs, but you're also rotating those passwords so that if somebody were to get a hold of one of those, they may not get a hold of one of those that's in the same time period as the backup, and they may not be able to restore it, especially if you're doing it every week. I don't know that I would recommend doing it every day, but that's certainly your option. Just make sure that when you do this, that you keep a copy of this log. Now, by default, I think Minion keeps it for 60 days. So if you want to go further back than that, just make sure, or if you want to have some sort of process that takes it out of the Minion log and stores that data somewhere else for long-term storage, then you could store just these passwords, say for a year or two, in another table, in a more central table, and then you could keep this table trimmed. So you've got a number of options here. And there you go. I think that's all that needs to be said about backing up certs.